There we go. I'm slightly late because I'm tardy. No, I'm going to blame Ian, but for no good reason at all. He was here on time.
Yes,
good afternoon, good morning. There we go. That's badly. Wherever you are, might be in the world. Hello, Johnny. Hello, Mac Vision. And hello, MTV. Well,
the house is full. The house is full.
The house is full. Exactly.
No more people watch. Yeah. Stop. We're at the capacity now.
Actually,
the football's,
yeah.
The football's finished.
The football's finished. There you go. Some clowns have offered me more than $1,000, they say, and they're not going to do it, to put some casino adverts. Let's just, yeah, I know.
The manscaping sponsorship was bad enough. Let's not go to casinos.
Yeah, let's not go. Yeah, I thought, yeah.
How's that lawnmower 200 going, Gary?
That lawnmower 200. Someone could send me a lawnmower. Actually, I could do with a lawnmower. I could do any one of the little skid steers that are coming out of China. Some nice things. Yeah. And right, anyway, I've distracted myself, and we're only like a minute. Yeah, we're 1 minute in, and I've distracted myself.
Is it time to start winding up? Let Ian have a say.
Quite possibly. Groovers, oh my word! Cool Cat's got Bruce down. that must be Bruce that he's talking about there. Obviously, the world's going to be talking about NDAA drones and things like that. And when I say the world, I mean America. In fact, let's come on to that in a minute.
America is the world, Gary.
Oh yeah, you're right. I was having a little thought experiment today, based around what if we had. Is that word? Yes. What if we were allowed to shoot down stuff and we were at Gatwick and we were allowed to shoot down stuff with RF? So the Gatwick Tower is about 120 feet high. I think it's 121 feet high. So I thought, let's stand up there with our drone gun and how far would it go? And I really actually wanted to quiz anyone, but I thought Bruce might have some opinions on this. So that's the sort of best case RF footprint with stuff hitting the hills up there. Well, it's the Downs if you know that area. But if you were to have an attack vector, you surely, because apparently there's some automated ones out in the world, and you'd have to have vectors that you'd stop them pushing RF out into, i.e. towards the hospital down here. I mean, it would be bad news to be firing all sorts of RF at things, and that surely then would be your attack vector. So I'm not sure how the shoot down of these things is going to work.
Also, they presume that they are remotely controlled or reliant on GPS, which is not a good assumption to make these days.
No, I think that it does depend on these devices. They can be RF, they can be GPS, or they can be both.
Or inertial.
I've had
short distances.
I've had experience with them both. I've had experience with them both from the Secret Service, from Indonesia. I've been hit. They were not.
That's a long way to your house.
They must have. No, they got a long cord.
Long cord, yeah.
Not too far from you, Bruce. I was in Papua, so. And what happened was that there were 7 DJI drones flying in the vicinity. We had the vice president at that time. We had the vice president of Indonesia was in the area watching the event, and I was doing a show there. And we had the drones up. So we had 500 drones up. And they used this drone defender. That was the weapon. I even got to try it out myself afterwards. But they pointed it up.
Does it have much recoil? Much recoil?
Oh, it's just literally you just turn the knob and that's it. You just turn the knob.
Well, yes.
You turn the knob.
Yeah, we've all heard that excuse before. Yeah.
But they shot that 7 times, and we seen this in the log. So we got the log files and we seen that. But anyway, we were 500 meters away, and we got utterly destroyed. Utterly destroyed.
Destroyed. What
GPS.
Does that mean?
GPS. So what happened was that we had the radio frequency blasted. Now that's fine. If you lose the radio, they can still come back because they know where they are. the drones will just come back because with
Yeah.
the radio, if they lose the connection to the base, they will just come home. But if you have GPS, they will just go wherever they want to go. So
and stop and think for a moment. We're planning to build this massive network of eVTOL air taxis, fully autonomous, reliant on GPS. And 500 meters away, you can pull the trigger, and that becomes a bomb with people in it because it doesn't know where it is or how to get where it wants to go.
Absolutely. And it is devastating. I've also had one where the radio frequency, it's only been radio frequency, and they can actually control it. So when they aim it, they can actually bring it down, and they've done that. I've seen them do that. So, but there's lots of different kinds, but they.
Well, sorry.
That system that you saw bring a drone down with a kind of pistol. Did you see it?
Yes.
And was it a DJI drone?
No.
What kind of system? Because you have to analyze both sides of the equation. If the drone was commanded to land and not crash, then the pistol or whatever radio transmission was interfering with the drone must have known and interpreted a land command, because otherwise it's impossible.
No, there was no land command. So the drone that was, I can't say what the drone was. I don't want to say. I don't want to get, I don't want to get into trouble. But there was no land command, and they basically controlled it. They basically controlled it.
Okay, so if they took over the control of the drone, they knew the protocol the drone was using. They knew the software.
2.4 is usually everyone usually flies in 2.4.
No, come on. To issue a programmed land command and not a catastrophic shutdown, anything, you have to know what the drone is running to issue that command. So, hey, something is rigged on either side.
There was nothing rigged on either side there. There was nothing rigged because we had control over the drone, and we knew. So, and we seen it come down, and nobody had hands on it, so it went up.
And Kevin is saying something that link lost.
Yes.
Could be a possibility. But for instance,
we seen that in the logs. So we seen that in the logs, and we can see the radio frequency being lost, and then we seen it go down. So we had the logs analyzed for that as well.
Because the action that was pre-programmed on the drone was to land. Because if it was return to home, would be a different thing.
It wasn't. Trust me, it wasn't. Because we know, and as I say, we analyze the logs ourselves. So
So a link lost, you have several actions that you can program on the drone. And one of them is return to home or land.
Yeah.
So if the action would be return to home, the drone would happily return to home on the link lost.
Yeah. I mean, we know in that system that if you lose the radio, it takes, I think it was 200 seconds before the drone comes back. It was less than 200 seconds.
Yeah.
There's a return to home from history from 2012, like May 2012, when that Sheeple went through the ground control station. Although they think that was GPS spoofing, don't they? But similar sort of thing. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. I didn't think that little conversation would pull both Louis and Kevin out of the woodwork. That's pretty cool. Hello, Louis. Hope you well.
No, the thing is, I'm always a bit weary of those so-called miracle solutions that one pill takes over all the drones in the world. I'm not so sure of that, because even so, for instance, and let's say on something that is open source and you can easily test this anywhere, ArduPilot. You can program ArduPilot to continue mission if link lost, so the drone would, okay, I lost the link, I don't care, I continue doing my flight. Or it's really something that the operator of that anti-drone machine, let's call it anti-drone machine, has to know what the target is.
Yeah, but you got to remember, if it's not a link loss, if it's a link replacement, if you've got a stronger signal that overrides and masquerades as a control link that is valid, they can then command it to do whatever the hell they want.
That's not so easy these days because you have validation of link. You cannot go with a more powerful radio and take over the link. And even on chip systems that everyone might be using, like Radio Master or a Free Sky Syncs, you have the binding of the remote of the radio and the receiver. So, hey, we can do a lot of things with electronics, but one size fits all.
Remember, there's billions of dollars going into COAS technology at the moment. It's venture capital flows like water. People have got an idea that no problem getting it funded. As far as binding goes, that generally amounts to having a GUID that is recognized. You can spoof GUIDs, but if you've got an encryption layer, it becomes harder. It is difficult, but it's not impossible, I would say, would be the answer. But the best counter UAS system is double or buckshot and a good rifle.
Well, what's the current popular top 10 number one? Actually, I kind of meant to say this as well, that today I had 4 counter UAS press releases sent to me. They really are. They're outgunning everybody. A couple of months ago, I said it was delivery drones. It's back to counter UAS again now. Is the flavour of the moment. So, what is the current favourite mitigation for, say, somewhere like Gatwick or Heathrow? If they say they've got a method of jamming,
throw dollar bills at them. Throw dollar bills at them. That's what
throw dollar bills.
That's a good solution for Gatwick. You just get the Ian, and he'll go after it. So get Ian on track of Gatwick.
I just put Ian. I would put Ian at the end of the runway. Actually, Ian, I'm flying into Gatwick on Friday morning. Can you stand at the end of the runway just to make sure I get in okay and you know,
do your impression of a bollard? But you see, in Ukraine, they're using FPV drones to take down reconnaissance drones. Did you see that footage where they had the
That's
FPV
actually
drone?
that's not easy to do. That's
it's not easy. But nothing's easy
to do. I was talking to I can't say who I was talking to, but it was someone in the authority section here, and they were actually trying to do that. They were trying the experiments. They were trying to knock each other's drone out of the sky, and they couldn't do it. They actually could not do it. And so these videos that you're seeing of the Ukrainians doing that, it's I have to say they're very skilled at it.
Skilled. I do a lot of air-to-air filming following other aircraft, other drones according to regulators, and it's been very easy to bring one down. And the thing is also, I was talking about colliding with it, but they're just using proximity detonations with some shrapnel. I mean, you only have to be 30 meters away and you're going to knock the thing out of the sky because it'll shred it. So it is a very viable solution. And I'm surprised that airports don't have someone sitting there with an FPV drone. If there's a report of a drone or something, or even scaring birds away, it's a solution. Use it as a solution.
That's not easy. I think that if you have someone at the end of the runway or you have someone at the other side and you say, go and hit that, it's like trying to find the needle in a haystack in a way, you know.
You'd be surprised with digital HD. I've picked up aircraft from a very long way away, and you know, if someone's flying a model and they might be 300 meters away, and I take off my drone, I can spot them in my goggles and I can just home in on them really, really quickly. It's not difficult these days. The old days of analog, it was pretty hard, but these days with digital, it's a piece of cake.
Well, I think with your digital, if you're using that, then it would be, because I know that a lot of the FPV pilots, certainly one of the FPV pilots that I work with when I'm doing the shows, he can see drones that are not lit up. So even in the dark, he can see drones that don't have the light. So he's able to, let's say, navigate around So I think in that sense, yeah. But let's say for your normal Mavics, let's say go and hit that drone, which is what these guys are doing. It isn't easy. It is tough.
Yeah, they should be using
All that
freestyle
said,
FPV drones.
This is all yesterday's argument now, as we've seen, thanks to Just Stop Oil. I'm now a fan of theirs because they are single-handedly showing how infrastructure, if someone wants to be a bad actor, drone isn't even on your list of things. No. It's down to screw fix, 60-pound angle grinder, boom, you're in. You get into any of the infrastructure. In fact, just put a high-vis jacket on, or and then just pretend to be staff thereafter.
Pretend you're an auditor. Just pretend you're an auditor.
Clipboard. Yeah.
And I'm sure that those FPV pilots have practiced as much as I am when I started practicing FPV drone flying on a simulator, that everything for me was a target. The ground, any infrastructure, anything that was on screen, for me was a target. So,
yeah. And it's like any skill, you pick it up, you learn it, and it becomes second nature.
Yeah.
I'm busy trying to find a video of us flying at Mill Hill and just trying combat model gliders years ago, and I can't find it.
Actually, I've flown a lot of RC combat, and even from a from a ground perspective, it becomes quite easy after a while. They're dredging the distance. You even get that right because it's the depth perception that's the hard bit. And as long as both eyes are working, you can get pretty good. I used to win all my bouts. I was really good at it.
Do you guys remember the planes that used to have a ribbon on the back?
Yeah,
we fly RC combat. We flew RC wings like that, which is because control line, you've only got 2 dimensions to worry about because you both got the same length lines. But with RC, there's the depth thing, which adds a whole new difficulty.
Yeah, no, it's once but even if you're trying to deliberately do it, it's not it still takes a bit.
It's easier to do it by accident. Ask anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
To even remember circular flight combat, that guys would be on a wire.
Yeah. You control, or whatever it is they call it in them. A control line in the UK, you control, and in America, I think they call it. Let me quickly put this up because it leads into something. This one. Have we all seen this? The FAA sent me a letter. It's out there on Reddit, and it's "You've been naughty, you've been naughty." Now, there are 2 letters doing the rounds in the United States of America. So, going to zoom in. It's weird, this Zoom thing. She's zoom out for it to get bigger, but there we are. Oh no. Anyway, it says "You've been naughty," and it was this chap's flown at 400 feet over an assemblage of people who were at a concert. But how they've got them is red, and that's the bottom line. And depending on where you are, not aeroscope, it is red. Depending on where you are, if you're at a city and there was something going on, so they're hoovering up people at events, be it a car thing, concerts, or whatever. And I've been told there's lots and lots and lots.
Just to jump in there a second, Gary. They could have done this with aeroscope beforehand.
They could have done.
RID hasn't enabled this. They could have done it all along. They've just simply thought, well, while we're doing RID, we'll finally do this. So you can say, oh, well, we've had these positive consequences from it.
The difference could be that now the public can file reports based on their app on their phone, and the FAA could pick up that and
it's much easier to do. That's right. Anyone that's hanging around the event, it's much easier to do.
Karen could do it.
Exactly, and it really it jumps very nicely into this, which it wasn't a very smooth. But Ian, you found out some more stuff about remote ID this time in the UK. What have you discovered, Ian?
Yeah, I'm quite pleased to get an answer on this because this is one that I had to fight with an internal review again. So at first they said they weren't going to. Well, they were trying to avoid answering this, but because they said it would give away. They were trying to use an exemption that was saying that if you're trying to ask about future government policy, there's kind of a way to get out of that. And I wasn't. I was saying, how much have you spent on RID, and are you going to fund it? Because it's the Home Office that are pushing this. It's not the CAA. It's not the DFT. it's coming from the Home Office. So it's like, well, you're going to fund it, and it doesn't look, from what we're seeing here. I mean, they've answered it in a way that leaves it open, but yeah, you think you'd be daft to think they are if they have no plans to. So the interesting thing is here, so over £500,000 has already been spent. Obviously, we're not developing anything at this stage, so this is likely just this wages. It'll be very expensive consultants.
Yeah.
Their fees that this will already be made up of. So that's already over £500,000 gone. So you just think when you're actually starting to develop it and you're paying security cleared developers and whatever, you're going to burn through money in no time. I mean, I posted about this on Facebook, and I just put a figure which I know will be way lower than what it will be of just saying 10 billion, but really the sky's the limit. Because I think when we discussed this before, that DJI had looked into it and they costed network ID over $100 million. Well, I think well over. And I think you would burn through money like no one's business, and it would go like 10, 20, and who knows where it would end up. Obviously, we'll only find out once it happens, but it'll be interesting to keep pushing for these figures and get someone like the Register looking on it, because they love to sort of peek their eye on IT deliverables, especially when they're going over budget, and it's, there's questions behind it. Is it really necessary? And I do think seriously, there should be the question, really, is it really necessary? I mean, as you know, while I've said it a bit in jest, it is a serious point as well that the Just Stop Oil have shown that if you are going to protest and be a nuisance, drone just isn't on. It isn't on the radar for what you're going to be using. We're spending all this money, and yet you're leaving facilities where someone can just literally cut the fence and go in. So the question is why? Where's your actual evidence of these things have happened? Everyone's always just keep going, Ukraine, that's got nothing to do with what people are going to do over here. It's there because, really, the war they've had over there, they didn't have all the gear to start with anyway, so it was just using what you could. And it's obviously you've got military munitions, which these things are just not part of the landscape, within the UK, even within terrorist groups. When people have looked at doing this, they've always had to try and use legally acquired items, and they just can't put that in a drone payload. It's always, it has to go to a vehicle. So we've actually got, those cases that have gone through court where terrorists have started off and they have looked and they have binned the idea of using a heavy lift drone and said it's just, it's just pointless.
It was that student with his 3D printed drone. He was arrested.
And I think that if you have anyone who goes, to a shop and buy, and let's say wanting to buy things or whatever, there's always an element of, let's say, suspicion behind that, because it's a small community. People know. They know. I think there was a case in Denmark a couple of years ago when someone, a couple of guys were actually planning some kind of an attack, and they went to a shop, and it was these two random guys just asking about stuff they could buy, and they clearly knew that these guys knew let's say nothing about drones, and they actually reported to the police and found out that they were actually planning an attack. And I think that's the thing with, let's say, if you want to talk about the community, is that people know, and when you start buying stuff like that or you start inquiring, you will get caught.
But you can see why the narrative is so heavily funded now. When you look how much money they spend on just playing thought games, 600,000 quid, just to consider the option. The money behind this narrative is enormous.
Is this a roundup? Is this an exact number, or is it just a kind of ish? So it could be more.
This will be pretty precise, this one that's here at the moment.
I mean, I have a pretty good idea of who those consultants are. I have a pretty good idea.
We know, because we've discussed them on the show, that we've put their emails.
Okay.
One of them's Beringa, I know that, and I think there was a second one. But yeah, we have discussed them. So that, this will be a small number of staff, and they might have even included. We don't know because they haven't done a breakdown, but they might have had some permanent staff where they've included them as well. But really, this shows that they're willing to put some money there, pushing this. But yeah, to get it over the line, the only way to do that is to dump this on the drone community, and I just don't think, especially when we know there's a national array of aeroscopes anyway. Where's your justification? And I am actually slightly concerned of a point we brought up last week. There was a memorandum of understanding between the CAA and the police, and that no longer exists. And I can't go into too much detail at the moment, but I'm hearing on the grapevine that really there's a lot falling through the cracks now, that really drones that are being naughty aren't getting pursued as they should be. And I almost wonder if this is even deliberate, that in fact at the moment no one's doing out about it, so someone's sat there collecting all this data, probably on the national array, to then bring out a figure at the end of it all to be scary and say, look at all these drone users that have been being bad. And they'll be being bad because no one's doing anything about those small number that are out there. Because if you, as we've seen before, where you have say for example, if you sat around an airport and you were to take in the data from the flights that are going on around it, if you found a bad actor, and this has been seen, it was one that was done in the US. There was a guy that was flying in the FRSA without permission, and instead of saying, "Oh, we'll arrest him now and deal with him," they just kept on recording him day after day after day after day after day for 6 months, so they could go, "Look, we've had 300 breaches or however many." You know, they did this massive number, but it was like, no, if you'd have stopped him on day one, there would never have been that number, because it was a small group over and over and over again. So I am slightly concerned that there's we're spending money on all this kit, and we are definitely not doing anything about people that are actually pushing the boundaries.
I should think there's merit in tracking it a bit to see what people, the pattern of life of end users. I know Richard's got a from Altitude Angel's got a huge amount of data on the flying, private flying around.
Oh, sorry to talk over you, sorry for a second, but you don't. Someone's breaking the law. You don't say that guy. You know, if you were monitoring traffic and you've got a guy that's speeding, you know, for motorways at 120 miles an hour, you're not going to say, "Oh, well, we'll just keep monitoring him for a few months, and he might just run somebody over, but we'll just keep monitoring him anyway." You jump on him that moment, and we're not doing that in the drone community. And then it's like, well, if you're saying drones such a risk, then why aren't you doing anything? So at the moment, there's definitely a disconnect. It's certainly here in the UK. And
I think it is the UK, Ian. I do think it is the UK, because I know here that if you do fly where you shouldn't fly, or whatever, they will just go and fine you. And I actually had a comment this morning from one of my videos I was talking about, and there was a guy from the UK flying here in the big no-fly zone that I was flying in last week, and he was saying that he was flying there, and he didn't know. That's cool, and he didn't know that wasn't a no-fly zone, and the police actually came to him, and he said that they were ever so polite, they were ever so nice, they were really surprised that I had remote ID on, but they still fined me. It was like, yeah, okay, So, but they were not. But they weren't. But they were surprised that he had remote ID, but they weren't obviously using that to track him. So.
Yes, obviously I found a video. That was me in the shirt, and that's when the world was. Do you remember that's when the world was in 4:3, and just before this, the world was all in black and white. So yeah. But that's Milhel, and that's some great fun that we used to have there, and it's and whilst we were deliberately trying to do it, it was quite hard to do. But enough of this nonsense, and it was an American fellow that created the video, so that's why it had all the thing. There's a big ton. Anyway, it's a nice place to fly. I doubt if you can do that anymore, because that's Shoreham, that flat space in the background, that's Shoreham Aerodrome over there. Oh. So I can imagine that probably doesn't happen anymore. But anyway, let's go to this. And whilst we jump onto this one, I was trying to remember the name of the chap you said about the scaremongering. There was a chap in America who was set up in effect by the FBI and given some C4 explosive and told to go off to the model shop, and they sort of radicalized him. It was all done, and I can't remember his name. It's so many years ago. I was trying to remember our story on that, But yeah, he was set up to run that narrative of drones are scary, you know, or and model aircraft are scary. And that's when they found out about that is when they found out about model jets. They didn't know model jets were as capable as they were, and they wanted them grounded straight away in America. But that's, you know, pull up a sandbag another day. Now this flowcopter thing's quite interesting in just the very fact that they're claiming 200. It's hydraulically driven, those props, and they're claiming a 200-kilometer range with 100 kilos. So that's a pretty serious machine. I think it's been in your neck of the woods for trials. It's been in Denmark anyway for trials recently. So that was a pretty amazing thing. And yes, turning a little bit towards Cool Cat mentioned. When's Mason? Oh, Simon's down there. Okay. Cool Cat mentioned somebody in America wanting to get around this NDAA thing or to get around the DJI ban. Orca have brought out a range of autopilots, and there's a few other people, of course, the Cube, and there's Arc as well in America. So there are ways around this, but I think it is the beginning of a new dawn for the industry. Back to the future. I don't know. You've probably got opinions on this, haven't you, Louis?
No, these things are starting to pop up. These NDAA compliant things. What people don't understand is what goes inside these things, because assembling a bunch of chips on a PCB and remains to be seen if the PCB is done locally or ordered from one of those online Chinese suppliers of PCBs. So the thing is, if companies want to have a safe haven for their vehicles, they have to go with people that have been on the market and do present already compliant systems and components. I can remember Philip Rouse is one of such guys, and he has been supplying quite a few of those blue badge guys.
And well, not just blue badge. I think, unfortunately, it's allowed confusion in America. Sorry, I jumped on you there a bit, Louis, because we've got blue, green, and NDAA compliant stuff. So green being the AUVSI made up standard, blue being the DIU proper standard, and NDAA similarly is the grown-up one. So it's
the AUVSI standard for me is the same as if I go on 200 kilometers per hour on an 80 kilometers road. It's my standard, so the police doesn't care. That thing is a fallacy that we should not run into that fallacy. The green standard. There is one standard, period. All the rest is whatever. Come on, Gary, can we start a SUAS standard?
Yeah. yes, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's easy. So let's go and start here. The SUAS standard. We'll have absolutely. Ian as lead compliance officer for Gatwick, and you'll be the boss.
And well, maybe. And Steve, he can be our flyby guy. Steve, there, he can be our European liaison. What's that thing you're on? It's got a better name. It sounds like Star Wars. Jeddah. The Jeddah.
Yes.
Yeah, the Jeddah thing. Cool Cat's putting up the right links there. Now, this lot, Event 38, have been creating vehicles to the NDAA standard for years. And one thing that's really beginning to annoy me about, oh, the sky's falling in, no more DJI is there's been other platforms available for years that are compliant. They're not as out as the box, press the button and go, but they are out there and they'll do more. This will do more than an awful lot of DJI things. And it's tied up with BV loss and things like that. And America is rolling out all more permissions, so it's not quite as all deadly as people are saying.
There's one thing that we don't make the distinction well enough. Most of the time when we speak about blue SUAS and whatever standards, we are talking about industrial drones, and we are forgetting that the number of drones there are on the market is 90% non-industrial drones, and I believe the competition to DJI, if the ban goes on effect, will come from those 90% of non-industrial drones. The industrial drones, they have a more or less their spot, because many people use DJI, the big ones, the 350s, the M3 Enterprises. Those are the easy to replicate. Come on, you already have free flights. If you wanted a good drone, although using a version of PX4, but if you wanted a good drone, they have a good solution. So it will be a one. It's not Skydio. Come on, Skydio is not, their market is not industry. So it's not industrial surveys and all of that thing. So it's free flight. So the problem is the 90% of the drones that are the obvious ones. What will these people go on Best Buy and purchase? That's the what it still remains to be seen. And that and the sub 250 ones. That's another interesting war to come up.
Yeah, I think that if RID's going to find people out faster, then that private market will start disappearing. But it's certainly, DJI certainly isn't the entirety of the market. And I thought this was interesting from Dell Air, that their universal ground station now, because the missing piece really for homemade platforms or low volume made platforms by small companies is in some ways the ground control station. Of course, you've got Q Ground Control and Mission Planner, and they're great, especially for the costs. That's what always annoys people moan about. It's like, well, we'll see if you stump up the money to buy QGC instead of Mission Planner, or buy Mission Planner. They're free things. I'm not sure what people expect, but as other ground control stations start using Mavlink, then that opens all things up. I know that what's a light display company one? That's also a very good ground control station. There are already
ground control stations. They starting from Java-made ones, some adaptations that run on Android, some rip-offs of existing software posted with a different name on the various phone shops. So that's not the problem. And listen, on the comment I just saw you display here, I see lots of those still Chinese FIMIs and those third-party brands from China that a lot more people are using that I would imagine being used. People go and buy a FIMI X whatever for half the price of a DJI. And for an image quality, that's what they're looking at. That is almost as good as a DJI, and those guys are not in any ban or restriction, and those guys have their life mate. So people will still buy those cheap, cheap plastic drones. Well, they're all made of plastic, but those are more plastic than the others. But
But
no,
if we can look, if we look towards, I mean, if we look at Europe, we now have the C-class drones. So we have C-class, we have C0, C1, C2, C3, right up to C6. This is becoming more important for us. So now we need to see those C-class drones now. And what I would like to see is an enterprise C1 drone. That's what I want to see, so I can fly in built up areas, rather than, because, your other enterprise, which is a C2. So, because I'm having more demand for work in areas where I just can't fly those drones, or I need to have a Sora, but the other ones that don't have the C-class, then we just can't fly them here. It's so we're kind of in a way stuck with DJI. We are stuck with them. They have us over a barrel.
do you still think, and this is no behind the scenes motives, that do you really think that all that C classification, it's already in effect for 2 years? Do you really think that thing will move forward or will be dropped?
I don't think it will be dropped. I think that EASA are actually happy with it. I think it gives them. I think it gives
Looks good on
them.
the PowerPoint.
Yeah. I can't see it going away. I think it's a model that they're comfortable with, and it's a model that is easy to communicate with the public, to say, this is what you can fly, this is what you can't fly in this area. Of course, if you want to fly something heavy or something larger, then you need to go down the Sora route.
Count how many do you have?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's why I think it's a good enough standard to appear on a PowerPoint. The objectives are noble, but end of the day, I don't think it will go. Hey, I don't know. I really don't know this C classification will go. Will people will adhere to it?
They do. They do adhere to it. Well, I mean, from what I know and from what I see, people do adhere to it. So, if you, if someone, if you ask someone, I want you to do a LiDAR scan of this city, you go, I can't, because there's no drone that can handle that I can fly in that area.
Yeah. No. Okay. Do you see anyone going to Media Market and look specifically for a C1 drone to take pictures and to be fully compliant?
I don't think people really understand at the moment, but certainly I think that people who have certain drones now have a better understanding, knowing that they can fly those, those drones. At the moment, I think it's very much up in the air. But what you do know, and how we had this conversation a few months ago about when you go and buy a drone in a shop, whether it's MediaMart or whatever it is that you buy, that person isn't giving you the advice to say, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. They're just selling you the drone, and that's a bad thing. There's no service going on when it comes to that, and that's when people make mistakes. They go out and they fly in places that they shouldn't, without any understanding.
Now people will still go and buy the cheapest one, and the FIMIs, and if there is no, well, at least for the moment, we still don't have any restriction on DJI, so people will still veer towards DJI.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. It's a very convenient thing for them, and I think that the C class that has come in from EASA, I think the DJI are just literally rubbing their hands and they're saying, if we just go down the C class route, then everything's going to be, it's going to be easy for everyone to understand, and then it's more sales for us, and the lower they can get that class down. That's why I'm saying I would love to have an enterprise C1 drone. If I could have a C1 enterprise drone, I would be laughing. I'd be coming here in my Ferrari,
But you're gonna after you, Lee.
No. What do you call an enterprise drone? Is a drone that you can make work with.
Yeah.
Can DJI Mini 3 be considered an enterprise drone? Well, the Mini 3 Pro has SDK support.
Yeah, but still the sensor size is not none of my clients would accept that level of data.
Okay, but for instance, for roof inspections.
Yeah, I don't do roof inspections.
No. But I don't do roof inspections also. But I'm just throwing the ball.
Yeah.
Of what can we consider an enterprise drone? Is a drone that has an SDK? Or is it a drone that you can earn money with it?
See, I tend to use the word commercial drone when you can earn money with it. And then enterprise, I kind of think of something bigger. To me that says Matrice or that kind of size. But I don't know if it's it's one of these where people might have different interpretations.
Yeah.
That's the point. So, if for me, an enterprise or a drone is a drone that has an SDK support from the manufacturer. So it has an SDK, and you can program new tricks to it. That's one point.
But the SDK for the Mini 3 Pro is still quite limited.
It's the same SDK. It's the same SDK as for the M350 or M3 Enterprise. So
okay,
it's
but I can't
exactly
do
the same.
I can't go and do like a drone deploy mission with it. I need to use a specific application. I can't use the Pilot 2 application. I need to go in, and it has to be Android.
No, you have to create your own application to control the drone. But that is one thing. That at least the ones that I know, they don't use Pilot 2. They use their own specific applications. My company has developed specific applications.
I don't have the time to create applications. So
Yeah,
but,
so you're using it out of the box, basically.
Yeah, right, and that's all I can do, because I just need to go and fly and just get the data. And I mean, if I could employ someone to do that, then it would be a different story.
Yeah,
but
It's a thorny subject, and people talking about the lobbying with the DJI thing. That's happened, but it's happened. DJI's lobbied, Skydio's lobbied, Brink's lobbied. That's just the nature of business. I think it's being overdone. I think it really is being overdone, or overspoken. I think that part of it.
I mean, I can only speak of the DJ in the past when Brendan was there, seeing the way he worked, but DJI was really just because no one else could be bothered to get out there and say and speak on behalf of industry. So the very fact that DJI would be there and do white papers and speak up was a positive thing, because they were interested in protecting their user base. Their user base is hobby and commercial users. So it was everybody's interest. Where unfortunately, when you're lobbying and you're having influence, you have to have money. That's the reality of it. It's not the way the world should be, but it is the way the world is, and it's the way the world is not just in America. It's also in Europe and it's also in the UK. You have to have the pennies behind you, so it has to be somebody commercial. Ideally, you want a group of commercials, but they're obviously because of the bizarre market we have, where DJI owns such a big slice of it, that hasn't been able to happen. But if that ever changed, obviously you could have more of a mix. But nobody really wants to compete in that space anyway, because it's still, it will still be pretty slim margins, and you're making your money by quantity. It's always better if you can just to flog something to the military, and you make money like it's just falling out of the sky.
Well, the recovery drone, I'm going to have to disagree with you here about
what's
the
he been smoking? What are you smoking, recovery drone? The AMA's sat on their thumbs for since 2018 or whenever it was they rescinded 336. And also they look after their people's status. We're not talking about their members, we're talking about their people's, and it's a different thing.
Come on, Bruce.
I'm
if they
going to
don't
agree
take
with
care
it.
of their members, who would take care of their members?
Yeah.
Their members come first.
Their members don't seem to care too much, actually, because most of them are really old like me, and they sit around on a Sunday morning talking about the good old days when they used to fly, watching their models in the sun, and then chatting about and then going home and flying in circles if they do fly. The hobby's changed a lot. The AMA is far less relevant.
Getting the fancy table out about the car, getting the sandwiches out, getting the chairs out, putting the models on the table, sitting next to their models on the table next to the car with the sandwiches, with the coffee, then packing it all away and putting it back and going home again. But 200 fields. Okay, well, we're going to have
secured.
They never did. Who's going to argue?
They had that many before, didn't they?
Exactly.
And guess why? There's a financial incentive now because it's a freer. And you have to be a member of the AMA to fly at a freer, so they're looking after themselves financially.
Yeah, I really don't think many people, everyone's, write your congressman. Somehow, I don't know how we'd ever be able to do it. I doubt very much if 1,000 people have written to their congressman in America.
Yeah,
I doubt it very, very much indeed. So imagine 1,000 people spread out over however many hundreds of congressmen there are. I don't know how many. There's lots, isn't there? So this apathy.
Who's actually fighting? Who is fighting on behalf? I mean, let's not say the senators here, because the senators don't really count. There has to be a voice on behalf of the drone industry or the drone community. Who is that voice?
I'm the one.
Let's say the American guy here on the group. Who is the American guy here on this chat? Who is American?
No, me.
Louis, you're making a good point. You're making a fair point.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
But I am actually asking this question, and if someone can answer it, who is the voice? Who is the person who's going to meet with the FAA, to meet with with these people and speak on behalf of the industry itself? Who's doing that? I don't know who it is. There has to be someone who's doing.
There's people who purport to do that. We've got Vic Moss. He was on the FAA committee thing. He's apparently out there boxing for the hobby, but he's actually in the industry, and there is a conflict when that comes to that. And the thing is that we are a community of apathy. Look at the NPRM for remote ID. There were 200,000 members of the AMA alone, and there were just 50,000 submissions from everybody, including AMA members. I would suspect that despite the AMA pushing really hard to get its members to send off these things, they probably got 10 or 20,000 maximum from their membership. Less than 10% of their membership would have responded. And then the wider community chipped in the rest of it. And there's 1 million drones in America, 1 million recreational drone operators in America. And we got 50,000 responses. It's a pittance. It's nothing.
Yeah. And that is my point. Who there hasn't been anyone. I mean, you can say Vic Moss.
I'm missing a point.
Yeah.
Why are
Far
we
in mind,
fighting
Luke.
for the Americans? Why
Why
are
are we fighting for the Americans? Because where America goes, the world follows. We've seen that
Yeah.
so often.
What happens in America will have an effect on us.
Oh
Absolutely.
God, that means that we have more tourists coming to Europe to fly drones in Europe because it's easier in Europe.
There you go. Drone tourism. It's a new line of industry in Europe.
And the reason I've chucked this up is when you think about people like Vic, God bless him, he's going everywhere, isn't he? Shilling DJI's line at the moment. People have attended meetings in America and then walked out them and patented stuff, like Kenji here, that affects everybody now. It's unfortunately, it's the old thing, isn't it? Follow the money. It's follow the money.
Exactly. And that's why when Vic is involved in, Vic's got a drone photography business. He's looking after that first. And he'd be silly not to. It's his lifeline. It's his income. He has an obligation to his family and himself to support himself. So if it comes down to a choice of what's best for the hobby, what's best for Vic Moss photography, Vic Moss photography will win every time.
Absolutely. And back to that thing earlier about, I've got these things here about the stories being generated.
Yes.
This was the one. This was the one.
Yeah.
Way back in 2011.
Yeah.
But the FBI gave him the C4 and they told him to go off and buy him on an airplane. Yeah, and then they arrested him. It's like
what's happened to that guy, that student in the UK that built a 3D printed plastic drone that was apparently going to be... Remember that way he got arrested? He had that 3D, silly little 3D printed thing. That was a threat. This is the narrative again. I didn't see a threat from that. If that's the best threat they could raise, well, I think we're safe. I'd rather them have that than a knife.
Yeah, the interesting thing here is, because this is something that I try to point out to people as well, because I noticed, Bruce, you've done a tweet recently with one of the newspapers. It was saying, breaking story, drone could be fitted with a bob or something. And it's like, none of this is breaking. It's all been there for over 10 years now. As you've shown there, Gary, it's well over, we're hitting close to 15 years of this narrative being there, and no one that's a genuine bad actor is choosing to do it, because there's so many more easier ways of being a bad actor. And while that remains true, and it's shown by the fact that drones have become cheaper and cheaper, more accessible. And if that narrative was ever true, the problem would have come about just from the fact it's cheap. But the reality is, it's still cheaper to go and buy an angle grinder. It's still cheaper to use a knife that you've got in the kitchen, the car that you've got in your driveway. All these things are just there to hand. And the idea that you're going to go and buy a drone, learn how to fly it, learn how to firmware flash it, somehow manage to rig something up on it, it's just not going to be what your Joe Blogs off the street, who's for whatever reason got radicalized or has an issue, is going to choose is
I would argue that we're more likely to see people hijacking airliners and flying them into buildings, to be honest.
That, of course, is a pretty good use for said things there. Is covering the screen camera.
Come on, a 20 pounds angle grinder, but at Lidl does the job much faster and better.
True, yeah, again, yes.
How's that angle grinder going, Louis?
So what we're saying is here we've got to get into angle grinder sales. You're exactly right.
Yeah, I think we need that as a new channel, angle grinder news.
Angle grinder world, yeah.
Will it grind? Yeah. Will it grind? That's what we'll call it.
Will it grind? Will it
have SDK? That's what I want to know.
No. We already have the lock picking lawyer, so let's get the angle grinder lawyer. So
I wonder when the counter angle grinder technologies will start coming out. Flood of venture capital. We can protect you against angle grinders.
It's going to be a multi-million-dollar business.
It will be.
Angle grinder proof fences. That's the next business.
Yeah, but remember, in 1967, the Jehovah's Witnesses said the world was about to end. It didn't happen, and the Jehovah's Witnesses have lost all credibility. Yet we've been told for over a decade now that these drones are going to be used for these purposes, and they haven't. So when does this narrative lose its credibility?
Hang on a minute. You're saying that Jehovah's Witnesses once had credibility? I don't think so.
I'm very sure there'll be a PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Another work of fiction to marvel again, like what is it, bloody War and Peace.
No, I'm still waiting.
It's funny you mentioned them. They have done a report again in the last week.
Oh, really?
No.
How much is the drone industry worth now?
I want to see one of those Bruce CAD instruction videos on how to operate an angle grinder to be more efficient.
I could do an angle grinder shootout, which is the best against chain link fences at airports.
I've just thought, Bruce, actually, I shouldn't put this idea into your head, but you could actually go viral with a mock-up video where you say you put an angle grinder on a drone.
On a drone.
I was thinking that,
a lens, and then just let the Daily Mail get hold of it and just watch it go mental.
I'm actually going to not comment on that because of a certain thing that I was asked to do a couple of months ago. I won't say anything, but yeah. But it was actually for a genuine use case, which could not have been done any other way. But it was much larger. It was.
Yeah, I've already had similar requests. How to put an electric tool on a drone to do operations at very high.
Yeah.
Basically that.
Yeah.
Hey, Louis, you do inspections of tall structures, don't you, with drones?
Yeah.
Yeah. In New Zealand, we've got a new way of doing that. We just let the pylons fall over and walk around them. Have you seen that?
Yeah, that's also a possibility. And I can tell you the pictures that we get from those are great because it's black for each.
We've gone a minute over.
I'm not kidding.
We've gone a minute over the hour, and we're definitely talking nonsense. We've got time left. You, Bruce. Okay. Here we go.
We've been talking about DJI and the security and the spying thing, have we? While I was away doing other stuff.
Yeah. And we're not going to have FCC modems or devices on our angle grinders. Let's get that clear.
But did you see the story that's running now, that Google Earth picture of that manta ray moored in America? Yeah, so the secrets are out there. You don't need a DJI drone to get them.
Well, true. Yeah, but it's a bit more nuanced than that, isn't it? And that's the trouble. This story hasn't been coming. It's not just arrived last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever that went through Congress. It's been coming for a while, and people have just got to pay attention. And if they're serious about their drone businesses, it's going to sound callous, but it's got to have other plans. That's all.
No,
but did we discuss whether they're going to ban the drones that are in the country? Because I've been doing a bit of research.
Oh, have you now? No, we didn't. Go on then. Go on.
Yes. No, I looked at the only really comparable ban was the Huawei one, and they allowed those. It's not me. They allowed that to continue. So they just did a no more importing beyond this date thing. I think it's obviously clear what they're going to do in this case, even though it completely blows their security argument out of the water. As if you buy a Mavic, say you buy a Mini 4 Pro today, and it's totally safe. But if you buy it tomorrow after the ban, it's a security threat. I mean, but they've done it before. They've embarrassed themselves. The US government has embarrassed themselves and betrayed their actual true motivations in the past. So they'll do it again. They have no fear of ruining their reputation.
Yeah. I was just going to say, do you think they care?
No, they don't. They don't care at all. Of
course.
Because the average voter is too stupid to notice.
Yeah.
I don't know. Squishy's saying about the. I'm not sure. That's what sport.
It's part of the narrative.
Is this part of the narrative?
It'll be the next step in the narrative. It'll be the next thing I think that the governments might look at as a way of clamping down and clearing us. Because you see that Amazon drone that was delivering tube socks in China with all the brown smoke coming out of it. That's what the skies are being cleared for.
I would say on the FPV point there, again, it's back to the equipment they had. Do you think if they had the choice of a AH-64 Apache gunship and a drone, they would be flying the drone? No, they wouldn't. They're only using the drone because it's the only tool they've got to them. If they had the conventional warfare tools that the U.S. Army has. Or the
But they're
US
seeing,
No.
but they,
Sorry,
but
sorry,
they're,
Ian,
but they're
you're wrong
seeing
there.
that
I-
it's way cheaper. It's way more cost effective to use these drones, develop 3D print, all the rest of it, and you just have someone sitting in a bunker,
Yeah.
and they can do the damage. They can actually be a little bit more accurate in a
Yeah,
sense. But of course, it's still early doors.
It's still though it isn't a replacement. At the end of the day, if the weather's really bad, it's like, well, the rain has taken down my drone. That isn't taking down a helicopter.
It doesn't
they'll do
matter.
that.
It doesn't matter.
We
Ian.
know that we know that there's a lot of development going on. There's a lot of investment going in from the military. There's a hell of a lot of money being spent now on research. They will sort that out. That is something that they will fix. I mean, rainproof drones are here.
Yep.
And we will
Exactly.
Orange. I've
it
seen
will
them.
be normal. It will be very normal to see that now.
Yeah, I mean, the point still comes down to, if you want to blow up an airfield, you're still using a missile.
Yeah,
If you
No,
want to
no,
blow
not
up a
necessarily.
bunker,
No, Ian.
all the things that you're
Or an
doing
air
in
compressor.
war, you're
Ian,
still going to be
they're
using
looking at
a
different
cruise missile
different
or
alternatives. Ian.
helicopter. Sorry?
Yeah, they're looking at different alternatives than you're just thinking one drone to do something. No.
Oh, no,
they're
I mean,
thinking,
I know,
they're
but-
thinking they're thinking differently. They're thinking swarms.
Yeah,
they're,
well, no,
they're thinking dedicated drones.
I realise all that, but those are still replacements, or where you've got alternatives. You could use mortar fire and so on.
Yeah.
To say there's
Unmodified.
these options. We might well go down like we said with Jones. Oh, they'll be delivering us all our,
No,
all our
Ian,
Amazon deliveries and that, and it hasn't happened. The
the
military
cost
may
of a
well actually go
missile-
down this road with a lot of this stuff, and a lot of it actually might be said. You know what we're doing, what we've got conventionally at the moment is just better anyway, and a lot of it will actually fall at the wayside, and there'll be some things that come out of it, but there'll be a lot again where you're just going to be, what we've got now is perfectly fine for the job we're trying to do.
You do realise that the British Army is sitting watching this right now, taking notes. You know that.
Oh, yeah. But the thing that surprises me is, right, how on earth can anyone be so stupid as to fly a military aircraft or helicopter if there's a drone in the sky? It's too dangerous. A drone can bring down these aircraft. We've been told repeatedly the Daily Mail would not lie.
Yeah, look, and this French guy says they're going to lose their effectiveness. I don't particularly
I don't think
agree with that. I don't think so
It's
at all. They're here
whack-a-mole. It's
they're here to
countermeasure.
stay,
Yeah,
and
it's going to be a battle.
it
If
has.
they're
It
all
has.
DJI, if they're all DJI drones, yes.
Will they
Oh,
be
yeah,
banned?
but they've been banned. Who cares about them?
Yeah.
The thing that worries me most of all now is we're talking about countermeasures before. Have you seen what you can do with a Raspberry Pi and one of those AI shields that you can put on it with pattern? All you've got to do is find a major road that leads to your target, set up your thing to follow that road using a cheap camera and a Raspberry Pi, and it doesn't matter what they throw at you, GPS blocking, RF blocking. You're fully autonomous, fully self-contained. You will fly all the way to the destination and deliver your payload. But it won't happen because it's much easier to put a suicide jacket on and check in through the baggage compartment, baggage area. Oh, Gary, what's happened? You're being attacked.
Just a small fire.
Was that a lithium battery like in South Korea?
Oh God, yes, absolutely. No, the cushion fell off onto the
Oh, no.
there we are.
Onto the heater.
Onto the heater. Exactly.
Oh,
you
we
shouldn't
thought
be
it
allowed
was
to
a
play with
lion
these things.
attacked you and you used the pillow.
Smother it. Exactly right. Smother it. Gosh. Oh well, that ended very quickly.
Now the thing is, drones are a factor that we haven't seen until this Ukraine thing, and their usage is now, well, except for those big predator type drones, but small type drones they're still learning how to put it on the battlefields. What we've seen so far is just the beginning. Hey, it's those nice YouTube videos of an FPV drone flying against another drone, flying against a tank, flying against a position, a mortar position, anything. The tactics are still much underway. Not anything has been, and it will evolve.
Yeah,
But do you think?
Go on. You go first, and I'll jump in.
Do you think if this was any other war that started at the same time, do you think that drones would have been used effectively enough by any other military except the Ukrainians? It's a bit of a rhetorical question.
It was not only the Ukrainians, the Russians too, and what we've seen is that they started using Iranian-made drones, and we see the Houthis
not FPV ones,
in the Red Sea using very small drones, well, big drones, to attack ships on the Red Sea. So,
who could have predicted that someone could build a drone so cheaply?
Are changing also the landscape.
But the Ukrainians have had a good history of unmanned aviation over the years. They've had a very good history. They have a good reputation, from my own knowledge of them, I think that if this was any other country apart from the Ukrainians, we wouldn't see, we probably wouldn't have seen this escalation of drones as much.
Born of necessity and lack of budget. That's why they did it. I mean, other superpowers have got options. They didn't have any options.
And it's worth pointing out, actually, they haven't done this unaided. It's actually, when people saw what the Ukraine was facing and the fact they didn't have any air power and that, but a lot of people were thinking of World War II, and there was that empathy thing of, well, we know what it was like, to be on the receiving end, the Blitz and so on. That actually there was a lot of worldwide drone expertise that actually got involved there and enabled them to do it, because they thought, well, they're going to get wiped out otherwise unless they have some of their own tools, until the West decides to start arming them more, which obviously now they are getting a lot of genuine, including all the missiles and counter.
Look,
Israel was the
Ian,
best.
look at what's going on in Ukraine. What we can see is the effectiveness of anti-aircraft measures, like the missiles and all of that, have made the usage, what we used to see attacking of aircraft almost disappear. You almost never see any air raids. You see missiles, guided missiles, and drones. And why? Because the countermeasures for manned aviation have become so good that is stupid, plainly stupid to risk $100 million airplane.
To be fair, you're not risking with a lot of the air stuff. Your helicopters are firing the missiles from 4 miles away. You're not actually putting
but a good SAM will go
more than
5 miles.
And the missile will fly 100 miles if needed to.
Yeah.
And
this is just like
that
when
goes your alley.
This is how ICBMs effectively made B-52s redundant.
Yeah.
No one's going to be flying their bombers with nuclear bombs across the Arctic Circle to drop them on America. Just fire ICBMs. You don't need those strategic bombers anymore for nuclear attacks.
And we know that well, obviously the Russians as well, but the Ukrainians are sending drones over 1,000 kilometers. So they can go far. They don't have the GPS, they don't have the radio, so they can't be tracked. But they just kind of point them and go.
Yeah,
go.
It worked for the Germans in World War II with their V1s and V2s.
Yeah, exactly the same. Yeah.
I think what the outcome will be, well, what we saw, I think it was John Parker that was on this show, where it's your drone's more to the size of like an eVTOL, like your air taxi, and it's firing your same missiles that your helicopter would. That's where it'll end up. It won't be someone flying around, 500-gram drone with a grenade on, because that's just.
No, I'm going to disagree with you there. No, I'm going to disagree with you.
It'll be both.
Yeah,
there's always going to be room for a battle.
And imagine that you have a swarm of 30 drones, each one carrying the equivalent of an hand grenade. It can create a lot of damage.
Yeah, that's artillery. There are alternatives that are there that you could do for
but this is way more accurate. you're getting a much better bang for your buck. I shouldn't have said it, but I did.
You just put a bleeding net up and you've caught them all.
and also, but again, also the the whole psychological thing as well, because we know that the Russians are petrified of of drones, and because if they hear what they think is a bee or a wasp or something, and they go up and it's an FPV, it's this whole thing that it has created the terror in them.
You've just given me a new invention, a new military invention. We can start this up as a business tomorrow, right? It's a little speaker that does a drone noise, and you just parachute a load of those in, like Russian lines, and just watch them retreat.
It would work.
Well, yeah. Well, remember AeroVironment. I can't bother to find the page now. AeroVironment. What did they call it? The area denial. Welcome to the audience. I think we'll do better with the angle grinder one.
Angle grinder wins the show. This is the angle grinder episode 1.
I'm scared of those slaughterbots. Those slaughterbots scare the crap out of me.
And if we make it, hang on, I'm just going to write down an app idea. I think I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it Grinder. I think.
I think that one's pretty good.
Will that work? Will that work? No, the whole Ukrainian thing is dreadful. Will it work elsewhere? Yes, it's currently working in Africa as well. They're being used in similar tactics are being used now and now in Africa. So that there are wars and battles happening now, and they're being used. FPV stuff's being used right now in exactly the same way. It's been instantly copied.
And that thing in Africa, well, Somalia and on the Red Sea with the Houthis, that is one of the most worrisome, because those guys are going after merchant ships, and until we see an oil tanker getting hit and having Greta Thunberg going to the Houthis.
Greta Thunberg is not going to do it because she's just been arrested today in Helsinki. Just 100 meters from my office, she was arrested today. So she's currently in the slammer right now.
Have you seen that parody on YouTube called The Thunderbirds?
No, not seen
it. It's like of the Thunderbirds. It's like the Thunderbirds, but it's the Thunbergs. It's actually really good. Hunt it out and find it. It would be good. The thing is, though, that we got to draw some comparisons. Now, drones are like anything else. It's just a tool. We can use it one way or the other. And if you look at it, drones have a lot of peaceful, useful applications, like boots. You go tramping, you put boots on. You go to work, you put boots on. If you go to war, you put boots on. So drones can be used in war. But how many more people have died as a result of boots compared to drones? Yet we say boots are great, but no drones. I mean, people get kicked to death in the streets of the UK and with boots. And everyone who goes to war wears boots as well. But we don't vilify them because they're used for something else.
It's a Toyota argument, isn't it?
I was going to say this conversation has nothing to do with why they're being regulated, because they've been regulated going back to the start of time for us. It's the narratives have always been there, as we showed earlier with the story, which was about 15 years old. We just keep talking about it because they just keep coming around in a circle. There's more so now with the Ukraine.
It's not Jonesy, and we've spoke about getting some kind of ordnance on RC vehicles from ever. So on the model planes, on cars, on boats. Ever since we have RC controlled vehicles. Now it's just
Man from Uncle episode.
It was 1874, wasn't it? I think when the Austrians used the balloons over
like North Korea do today.
Venice, and people say, but they weren't controlled. But the second round were, they had a long wire and dropped the ordnance on. They were
control line balloons.
Control line, exactly, going round and round and round. Yeah, it's all been around a long time. And the Wright brothers actually proposed a drone aircraft, if you will, for the military. It was since day one. It's been on the list.
Cliff's comment wins the prize. You win the internet, Cliff, about Gary's exploding cushion.
I was going to say the main reason things are being regulated in the way they are is money. There's lots of money.
Exactly. It's money.
Yeah.
And it's fear and ignorance as well. They prey on fear and ignorance to money. There's too many people making a lot of money out of the fear and ignorance of other people.
That's us, fear and ignorance.
Not looking at you, drone.
Yeah. Absolutely. Look, we're definitely beginning to go into nonsense, and I have to remove myself from
beginning.
this
You've been in nonsense from the start.
Absolutely. I didn't expect it to go down that FPV track quite so hard, or Ukraine track. No doubt we are going to. It'd be very. Also, the peace dividend of this, when Ukraine finally does win, the robotics that come out of this is going to be very, very interesting. And also, the people working in Ukraine are going to be very, very, very valuable assets.
They're not
for
highly
people.
irradiated.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
Ian,
yeah.
my flight arrives at 9:10 on Friday morning. Make sure you're at the end of that runway in Gatwick, okay?
I will be. I'll be there.
Thank you.
That's the sort of service we like, isn't it? His own runway protection service coming in down from up north. That's
Don't forget to hold the name card up,
Exactly. So,
if it's a Boeing, don't stand at the end of the runway, eh? You can get hit by a door or a wheel.
Oh, that gets us one final story that was interesting.
Oh, here we go. Right, everybody, get comfortable. Get comfortable, everybody. Okay.
What I'll do, give me a second and I will find it, and you can then show it, because if you could show it visually, it'll be funnier. So give me a moment, because it's.
So we'll just talk amongst ourselves for a couple of seconds.
Yes.
DJ Clint, Cliff could have it. We'll see very shortly. What's he better said? You said, here we go.
I've given you a link there to have a look at the comments.
Oh.
This is about the Boeing 737 MAX being in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And this shows just the tarnishing of Boeing's name. Just check the comments.
Detachable doors and lots of crashing. Random issue on each flight. Yes. Will it fall apart? Yeah. Yeah, that is quite interesting, isn't it? Will there be a beta program? Does it come? Yes.
The door is open.
I don't know. The door is open. I get that now.
It's an ad, Gary.
That's an ad, yeah, but it's a South African one. It's just chocolate bar. It's chocolate bar. Yeah, you're true. It's become into common parlance, isn't it? It's a meme. It's become a meme. So yes, not good for them. They're just trying to pick a new boss, aren't they?
And now the Starliner isn't coming back because it's can they go from bad to worse?
Absolutely, yeah. What a place to be.
Elon will rescue them.
Angle of attack indicators. Ian to the rescue, or Elon. Yeah.
It was an Airbus with the angle of attack indicator, wasn't it? The New Zealand one where they painted over. Was that the one? No, that was an airspeed indicator.
Paint over. Oh my god!
Yeah, and they took it for a test flight and ended up in the ocean.
Dear. Right, we're talking nonsense. Dear viewer, wherever you are in the world, look after yourself. We'll see you again next week at 2100 Gin and Tonic. Thanks, everyone. Look after yourselves. Be careful out there in the world. Watch out for blazing cushions and Grinder Monthly, or whatever we're going to call
Party
it.
Man. Look at Party Man.
Yeah.
He's getting ready for that Grinder app. You can tell.
Cheers. Yeah, exactly. Cheers. Find us there on the app. Cheers. Bye for now. Bye-bye.